can find Cheta on social media at Cheta. And of course, welcoming Funmi to a new year. Funmi Odude.
Good morning, bro. Happy New Year.
Happy
Cheta,
New
it's
Year
too
to you
early
too.
to be blue.
Yeah, no. Cheta, as usual.
I've been breathing fresh air for like when then just how do you put some time?
How do we survive in this town?
And of course, not forgetting Ugo Dre. Good morning. Ugo Dre is not going to win this morning.
I'm not. I'm just wondering why I'm sitting next to this grumpy old Cheta. I'm starting the year with him.
At least 4 minutes in between you guys. Lagos will be posting a video of this chat and this wonderful conversation and sitting arrangements on YouTube in a short while. But make sure to join us. You can send in your messages through Twitter.
Yes, we are at Smooth 91 FM. Please use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981. And you can also reach out to us on WhatsApp at 0809
We'll start with this first story from Premium Times, and that's for you, Cheta, to handle. So the Federal Executive Council has approved the establishment of 4 new private universities in Nigeria, added that to the already existing 75, so making it 79. And we have a total of 160 universities in Nigeria, comprising 40 federal universities, 45 state-owned universities, and 75 private universities. According to the report, it said they had an application from over 200 people bidding to start private universities in the country. But a few things of concern to me. First is one of the issues I raised with you downstairs. The requirements that are put down for the establishment and approval of private universities, even federal universities as well. Shouldn't they check the number of staff or lecturers available, seeing that the trend has been, about hiring lecturers, to carry out certain functions?
Well, they do check the number of staff. So it's one of the things that a good friend of mine is actually in charge of the audit process and the accreditation process. So regularly he goes around on behalf of the NUC to check the number of staff. However, it brings to the problem. On the surface, this is a good thing from my point of view because it's private universities, and as you know, I'm not a fan of all these federal and state universities anymore. But here's the problem. The truth is that we have a shortage of truly qualified university lecturers, even non-academic staff. So what happens is that because the private universities are more stable, they are smaller, they are more manageable, they are managed for profits, they tend to cannibalize the existing government institutions, especially those ones that are not very well paid and they're constantly on strike. So we establishing new private universities, we risk cannibalizing even more of the existing public universities, and we can't keep doing this. Think about it. We have the ASU strike, which is still on, it hasn't been resolved. A new university is supposed to have been established and built by the army. I don't know why the army is trying to establish a university, but realities on the ground in terms of Boko Haram have postponed that. But on November 28th, the Senate passed a bill to establish 10 new tertiary institutions, including 4 polytechnics and 6 universities. At the same time or about the same time that the NUC said HNDs will be converted to bachelor's degrees. What that tells me is that there is no synchronization of messaging within there, or synchronization of intention within the government. Bear in mind that the government is executive, legislature, MTAs, and all of that. There is no synchronization of intention. They're just freestyling as we go along. My unpopular view is this: we should actually let most of the public universities to die and let the private sector lead in this.
That also borders on outputs as well, and if you check the performance levels so far. But I see where your point is coming from, based on the strike and the crisis, bedeviling them. But moving on, let's talk about the APC campaign, the Lagos APC campaign flag off that occurred and was marred by violence, and that's coming on the pages of Vanguard newspapers this morning. 3 persons were 2 days ago feared dead and scores injured, including journalists, as hoodlums suspected to be members of the Nigeria National Union of Road Transport Workers (NERTW) invaded a campaign flag off of the All Progressives Congress campaign rally that was held at the Sky Power ground in Ikeja, Lagos. In that event, for me, they said 2 people unidentified as at this point of this report were feared dead, and some others were injured, and it involved 2 factions of APC, especially surrounding the the Island Transport Union, and one other union that's led by one NC Olomo, that's Alhaji Musiliu Akinsanya. Take us through the story and what your thoughts are regarding that.
Okay, so it's according to the newspaper, it's actually two factions of the NURTW, the Nigerian Road Union of Road Transport Workers, and it's actually sad because from the story, the people that seems to be to have been hit the most are journalists and not even members. A stray bullet is said to have hit the group political editor of the Nation newspapers, and as well as the cameraman from Joe Bibile TV, New Telegraph reporter, and all of that. It's really really sad, but I almost feel like should I it's violence in any form is horrible.
Yes.
But the fact that this happened during the APC campaign, I almost have this good for you thing at the back of my mind. To be politically correct so that I won't put smoke in trouble. This particular union is notorious for being the go-to of political parties for,
Campaign rallies?
well, if you want to put it in a politically correct manner, but when you want to be
You want to
naughty.
mobilize people.
Exactly. And so, and then they have decided to bring their problem to your rally.
But shouldn't this have been checked earlier? I mean, do you think that the leaders of the party do not know of this kind of activities or the
Of course they
tendencies of
do,
this
but
individual?
you know what they say, that when you create a devil that suddenly becomes bigger than you, it's what happens. And it's the annoying part of it is that, to be pessimistic, I don't see a lot of, well, MT Oluomo himself, who he said to be the leader of one of the
They say he
is
sustained stab injuries as well.
yes, he's in a critical condition at the moment. But I don't see too many arrests taking place because there are necessities to the people that hold power.
Doesn't excuse it.
It doesn't, but to be, I know I accused Cheta of starting the year in a gloomy mood, but I don't want to say realistic. Let me just say to be pessimist. I don't. If anybody is going to be arrested, it's probably the underdogs, and not.
I feel. I mean,
The ministry.
would it be far-fetched to suggest that the leaders should be called to answer questions bordering on the activities that's happening? Because it's troubling. It's very worrisome news.
It's
that
not
this
going
has
to
started
happen.
at this point. But yeah, I see the pessimism going on. But let's move on to this next story. Cheta, federal government to review salaries of workers earning above minimum wage, and that's from the Guardian newspaper. So this morning we have this report before us that President Muhammad Buhari yesterday inaugurated an advisory technical committee for the implementation of the proposed 30,000 new minimum wage for Nigerian workers, and also announced that federal government will review the salaries of workers currently earning above that. And I'm curious to know how many people it affects. We know already that affects staff of CBN, staff of NNPC. But then there's a preempting question of, does it affect staff of those working with the National Assembly and all that? Do they fall under the standards?
They are all under the National Minimum Wage Act, so yes, it should affect all of them. See, there is still a disparity between stakeholders, especially state governors, on what the minimum wage should be. And on one hand, the federal government has agreed in principle that by 23rd of January they will transmit the bill to the National Assembly for the new minimum wage act. It's my own view is that it's all political. They are agreeing because they can't afford a general strike just a few weeks to the presidential elections. But the fact is that the books do not support it. Hence the president's statement yesterday that while minimum wage will be raised, that there will be a salary review for everybody. That in itself is going to cause some confusion. The way we've always done it in the past is when there's a minimum wage review, everybody's salary goes up in proportion. It is simply unsustainable. But the thing is, the real hard decision that will have to be taken at some point, which they are going to dodge for as long as it's possible, that they will have to fire some civil servants. They have to cut down on that 900,000 man federal civil service. We don't even know how many are in state civil services. Because take Cross River State as an example. The governor of the state has somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 special assistants. I mean, these are the reasons why who think has gotten overlooked.
Mhm.
So let's cut to the chase at some point. Do the unpopular thing and set the country right.
All right, thank you very much, Cheta. The next story is from Premium Times, and we go very quickly to you, Funmi, for your analysis on this. So, Dasuki is back in court. He is asked that the court invites Olanika Falana others in his trial. He says he needs some of these new senior Nigerian lawyers actually to appear as friends of the court, maybe to give him some support. What do you think of this?
Okay, so a little bit of background about Dasuki's issue.
Okay.
His trial was supposed to have started, and he had the issue whereby he applied to the court to ask the federal government to not to start the trial until they obey the orders granting him bail
Yes.
and all of that. And the court refused that, and then he refused to
Appear.
appear.
Mm.
And that poses a bit of a problem in criminal cases because under our criminal law, the defendant has to be present in court.
Mm-hmm.
So the prosecution applied to start his trial in his absentia,
Mm.
and so that is where we are at the moment. And so it's not a story that I want us to gloss over, because one thing that we feel a lot in this country is in respect to the rights of accused persons. Accused persons have their own fundamental rights as well, and this is one of it. And so it's not a story that should be glossed over. What he's doing at the moment is asking. Well, there's this thing we call amicus curiae, friends of the court.
Yes.
There are people that sort of submit written briefs to the court on specific issues in which they have expertise to assist the court in arriving at a decision. And so he's called prominent lawyers, who most of them were former presidents of the Nigerian Bar Association, and popular human rights activist Mr. Funmi Odude, senior advocate of Nigeria. So he has applied for the court to call them to submit briefs in respect of this. Should the government be allowed to start its trial against him when it has refused to obey the order granting it bail? So it's not. I'm not sure it's too far fetched, but it's actually something that I want to happen, because we need jurisprudence, much more jurisprudence than we have currently on the fundamental rights of defendants,
of the individual,
particularly defendants in criminal charges. I don't think we have enough jurisprudence on it.
So regardless of the personality of the individual or whatever crimes they've committed, doesn't necessarily exclude.
I know that we look at him with the crimes are heinous. I mean, the bulk of money he's claimed to, but this goes beyond him.
Yes.
The reality of it is that he's not been found guilty in law as it stands as an innocent man. One of your fundamental rights is that you are innocent until proven guilty. So no matter the amount of money that, even if we did see him take it, in law as it stands right now, is an innocent man. And those rights, if we have to go beyond the personality involved to establishing the fact that let's get it right, and we should start getting it right from our jurisprudence.
All right, thank you very much for that excellent analysis. Now, Yinka sent me a message on WhatsApp. Yinka says, he sent a long message. First, he says, as drastic as it sounds, Cheta does make lots of sense in allowing the private guys run most of the universities. Like, we always do not want to hear good education is not cheap. And he reacts to the MC Lomo issue. He says, in critical condition, by virtue of his role in all scheme of things, he is required to be made to seem like a normal standard for people occupying such roles. The strange thing is how the outcome got. Okay, Yinka, we're going to continue with the message because you're adding some disparaging remarks there. And we have this one here. It says, it's from Tony Ayo and Ayobo. It says, I'm in support with the president and the review committee he set up yesterday. I'm particularly interested in the agenda and areas of discourse that he gave to them. With the profile of the chairman of the committee, I think the committee will do a great job. One message here as well from, what's your name? Ike from Apapa. It says, really, more private universities? Education is gradually escaping from the common man. How can public universities die? Can the private universities handle the huge influx of students? More profit for the owners, but no education for the common man if we raise our public universities. accepted that education is expensive, but at what cost shall we begin to deny less privileged kids opportunities to go to school? Thank you very much, Ike. We'll move on to more stories.
Okay, so let's come to you with this one, Ugo Dre. This one here from this day says, the United Nations on Wednesday expressed worries over the resurgence of Boko Haram attacks in the northeast. Okay, that's for you, Cheta. And well, they're talking about the fact that they pulled out about 260 workers from that area. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, when all the non-governmental organizations that were active in the theater finally leave, our nakedness will bring nobody who want to see. The Boko Haram thing has been going very badly, and we cannot pretend about it any longer. What worries me is not so much the resurgence of Boko Haram and their sister organization ISWAP, but the levity with which we are treating the whole thing. So on one hand, we have one set of people that are politicizing it. I mean, they learn lessons and they're applying those lessons. On the other hand, we have another set who are trying to use it for propaganda purposes. So when things like Matele, Baga, GD, all of them occur, they try to suppress that information. But the fact is, human beings are dying. So here's a brief rundown of the genesis of the current situation. 4 years ago, the Goodluck Jonathan government, desperate because of the 2015 elections, hired STEP, a South African mercenary organization, to help the army clear Boko Haram. STEP did, and that was what led to the spate of victories we saw in the weeks following the postponement of the elections in 2015, the 6-week postponement. We saw a series of victories against Boko Haram.
Okay.
Then Buhari was sworn in, and he cancelled the STEP contract. But for the next 6 months, as in he cancelled it straight, it was one of the first things he did. But for the next 6 months, the army remained on top until they made a strategic blunder. Now, there's Boko Haram split into two factions. Three factions, although one faction has fizzled out. They split into factions in 2016. So you had the faction led by Abubakar Shekau, which is still called Boko Haram. You had the faction led by Musa Banawi, which is ISWAP, Islamic State West Africa Province, and then you had the Mama No faction. Mama No has been killed, so his faction has collapsed into both, mainly into the ISWAP. Now, the dividing point between both main factions was a town called Mati, where to the north of Mati was dominated by ISWAP, while to the south of Mati was dominated by Boko Haram. Then, sometime last year, was it? No, in 2017. Sometime in 2017, the army decided to establish a military base in Mati. And as they put that military base, what they essentially did with that was that they prevented these two guys who had been fighting each other, ISWAP and Boko Haram had been fighting themselves. They essentially put a dividing line between them, and then allowed them to, they stopped fighting themselves, and instead they consolidated in their own areas, and now both groups are attacking the army. Secondly, at the beginning of last year of 2018, the army announced a strategy of essentially fortifying the major towns and leaving the countryside to Boko Haram. That strategy was what the Americans used in Vietnam. The Americans also used it in Afghanistan. Guess what happened in both wars? They lost. They failed. So what we are seeing is a complete strategic blunder and dog's puppy. And the fact that the army consistently accuses these non-governmental organizations of helping Boko Haram, which is clearly not true, means that those guys are frustrated, they are pissed, and they are looking to go out.
What would you recommend the army to do then?
It has to be a total change of strategy. Number one, this obsession with, we have defeated Boko Haram needs to end. It's an insurgency that has roots from among the people. That's one. Number two, the army has had this policy for a very long time of deploying soldiers outside their regions of origin. Failed policy. Why? Because when you deploy soldiers to the Niger Delta, as an example, soldiers from the north mainly, it alienates the local population. It is the same thing. You are deploying soldiers mainly from the south to fight. These guys don't speak Hausa, they don't speak Kanuri. It alienates the local population, and you drive them into the hands of Boko Haram.
Thank you very much for that one, Cheta. Let's come to this next story with you, Funmi. It's from the Punch newspaper. It says Lagos command arrests 13 police operatives for unprofessional conduct, and they're saying that they've invited 13 out of 19 of these officers. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, so good thing that the police is checking its own. So apparently, the Lagos State Police Command, officers of the Lagos State Police Command invaded a club and Unfortunately for them, the club had CCTV footage
Yes.
that covered the entire thing, covered them harassing customers and
I
all.
like the way you used unfortunately,
Yeah,
because
unfortunately.
I would
Because
hope they would see, they would know that there
Really, they
is
didn't,
security footage,
yeah.
but
Because without the CCTV footage, it would clearly have been we got intelligence reports. And they like to hide behind that word intelligence report of the activities of some boys, and it was the boys we were after. But when there's CCTV footage showing you harassing customers and all of that, the command has arrested 13 of the officers and is hoping to arrest. And to be fair, something that the police does quite a bit that don't make the news is they do have orderly trials within the force for these officers. That hardly makes the news because I mean the small portion compared to the big problem. But so I'm actually a bit optimistic that they would have those orderly trials with respect to these officers. And but if we begin to have orderly room trials and dismiss all our officers, what do we have left? So it still goes back to.
Well, here's a bigger
training.
question. So, what happens if, because looking at this situation particularly, if the club owner did not call out the police in this manner by revealing or releasing the CCTV footage, what happens to the others who do not have the same capacity to expose the realities of what's going on behind closed doors?
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. It would be your word against mine, and the police word. Once they throw in, you got intelligence reports. It's the best
everyone
defense
gets
ever.
a CCTV footage camera in their place. Let's move on to our next story. This one comes to you, Ugo Dre. It says here, fans 100 million naira debt leaves airport workers without salaries. It comes from the Punch newspaper. Let's just dive right into it. What are your thoughts about that?
Excuse me. So, apparently, if you're traveling or maybe you're just coming back from your holiday and the airport is entirely, this is why it's like that. So you have cleaners at the airport. I mean, typically the last people, people who usually take for granted, right? So they haven't been paid for some months. I think the last time they were paid, according to the report, was in October. And the guys who employ them, that's a Liquid Nigeria Limited, saying that the airport funds that we're owing them 100 million, they're owing them 200 million or so at some point, paid part of it, and they're still owing 100 million. And that's why they can't pay, in fact, they're saying they owe 120 million. And that's why they can't pay salaries. So without that money, they can't pay salaries. So what it means is that, I mean, you get to the airport and it's untidy, and wonder why it's untidy. You have foreign visitors coming into the country and they wonder why your airport is smelly or untidy. This is why they can't pay them. So there's just something wrong with the way we manage our finances here in this part of the world, where people get old and so you render a service and then you can get paid for that service. And the guy who's not paying for the service, they're not deliberately doing it. It's also because there are people owing him as well, right? So there's just something wrong with that fund flow, and for that reason, it starts to affect the people who matter the most. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the people who matter the most at the airport are cleaners.
Does this mean that we're going to see protests? Because we've seen some things like this in time past.
There are probably going to be protests, but the protests for who now? The guy used to protest already. You carry placard, they will just be passing you. But what the bad part of this is that why it's sad is that our airports remain smelling. That's all. I mean, this is enemy for God's sake.
And protests are not usually the best routes to take to seek redress in these issues. Tosin from Ikoyi on WhatsApp sent in a message said for me that he's not guilty does not translate to his confirmed innocence. Well, Tosin, she did not indicate that he's confirmed innocent. She's just stating a very clear fact that anybody who's facing trial is not guilty until confirmed, until the judge rules in whatever manner.
The language of the Constitution is he's presumed innocent.
Innocent until proven guilty. That's right. And that goes through the process. I have this very interesting message here from Uche from Ikeja. It says, "Dear Valentine, it's impolite to consistently interrupt your invited guests when they're making their points." Well, it's called interjecting, not interrupting, because I interject specifically to bring out another point, relevant to the story. We have this other message here from Timothy. Timothy says, "Uncle Cheta, sacking people could be likened to cutting the head to cure a migraine. Human resource development is a good way to go. If you sack, would you not have to compensate those for about 10 years who've been in active service? What about security votes, subsidies, jumbo pay? Also, or is there any audits on campaign finance and funds wastage and poverty side by side? How do how did or do other countries manage in this similar situations? Thank you very much. More messages here. Chibuna says, good morning all. I want to say mighty appreciation to Cheta for the light you bring to security information dissemination. The only reason this country is in the doldrums is because the haves continue to starve the have-nots with truth. Let's move on.
All right. Let's get to our next story. Coming back to you with this one, Ugo Dre. It says here, Nigeria's satellite maintenance took up 1.2 billion. The story is taken from the New Telegraph. But you know, it's however further says that it's a 52% drop from the 2.5 billion budgeted from the same purpose last year.
Yeah, so you should be happy. 50% drop from 2.5 billion a year ago. Oh, so here's the thing. I mean, this was a satellite that we've had since I think 2007 or thereabouts, and government owned. The sad part of the story is that it's actually a satellite that we can monetize. It's just that we're not marketing it well. And this is something that you can market to other countries, and you can also market to telcos as well. Telcos can use it for broadband services and even ISPs. So it's an investment that Nigeria has had for years that we actually haven't been able to make any money out of. So, but then government is still making provisions out of the budget for them when they should be self-sustained, at least, or moving gradually towards self-sustained practice. But that's not happening now. And the telcos too tell you that look, they are too expensive. That so you rather not use Microsoft, you rather use the ones for other countries, and it's just too expensive. So it's not competitive enough. So I guess it's something that we really need to look at because I don't see any reason why the government would honestly start to budget for
and pumping more money.
Yeah, pumping more money when it actually should be money making.
For the sake of clarity, though, who uses it then?
That's what I'm saying. Telcos, ISPs. So they
For
use
the
them
Niger Sat one?
Yeah, they use them.
New
for performance
Zealand.
services. Even countries use them as well. So it should be a money making venture.
Okay, let's move on to real quick to our next story. This one says Genco's accused discos of inhibiting power generation supply. It's from This Day newspaper. Your thoughts about this?
Well. Usual arguments between Gencos, Discos, and the regulators. So I really don't know where to start from here. But basically, Gencos are saying, look, we can generate as much as maybe 5, 6, 7,000 megawatts of supply. But the wheeling capacity for Nigeria is much lower than generating capacity, and that's been there for a while. So for the Gencos, they're wondering, okay, so if I can generate 8,000 and we guys can wheel 5,000, who's going to pay me for the 3,000 stranded capacity that I have? And that's really the issue. And it's been something that's been there for a while. And there's a reason why we have transmission limits. It's just the wheeling network in this country. But I agree that we still need a lot of upgrade. And until we complete that upgrade, we're going to have this issue. So this is just typical back and forth between Gencos.
But they're technically saying that Nigerians are not having enough light because some people are selfish and
Not necessarily. So yeah, that's how they paint it. But the
Yes.
real story is that look, you have a lot more generating capacity than wheeling capacity. That's just what it is. So you have same way if you have a generator in your house that's 20 kVA and you can only take 10 kVA, then there's 10 kVA stranded that you can't use. So you probably get your neighbor to come rely on the generator. That's basically what this is. So they are saying they have a lot more generating capacity, but
Not enough.
people can't buy that.
All right, quick message here from Folarami on Twitter. He says, Cheta guy, this Cheta guy is happy, but it makes sense, but stop being grumpy. Thank you very much. He needed to hear that. Olatunbo also sent in a message here on WhatsApp. It says, good morning, Smooth FM. The technical community set up by the Mr. President, or committee, meant to say, is a good move, but late though. Moreover, I think the NLC is serious. If the body is serious this time, should focus more on stretching the governors in order to realize their goal. In this instance, the realization of the 30,000 naira minimum wage is what he's referring to. And then Sheung comes here to conclude and says, regarding the satellite, let's not forget that Nigeria's money-making ventures do not make money. I guess it's referring to Cheta still. But anyway, Lagos, thank you very much for being part of Freshly Pressed 91 today. And special thanks to our analyst in the studio at Funmi Odude. You can find her on social media with that same name. Thank you very much for coming in. At Ugo Dre, special thanks to you. And to the grumpy one, Mr. Cheta Nwanze, good morning. Find him on Twitter at Chickstar. Lagos, coming up next, we talk entertainment inside the grapevine. Good morning.
The word makes more money for
Thank you.
Thank